Welcome back, guys, to yet another World of Warcraft The War Within video. Today I'm going to talk about a couple of different gold making things that you can do for the launch of The War Within. I'm making this video because a lot of people are, asking about what to get focused on, what to kind of pick and choose between, like what's going to make the most gold in The War Within, and all these questions that don't really have easy and simple answers. So I'm making this video to try and give you guys air quote easy and simple answers. No, obviously not. I'm just going to give you guys a couple of different options for what you can get started on The War Within, give you guys a couple of different reasons for why each of them are interesting or maybe fun for you, right? This is all, by the way, you have to choose what you find interesting, because if you do something that you don't really enjoy, then chances are you're going to burn out and quit long before someone else that actually enjoys whatever they're doing, even if it's considered a lower gold per hour. So don't worry about that too much and just try to find something that you actually enjoy, because, that's the whole point of playing this game anyway, right? The first thing I want to mention for people, and we're going to start this from the more simpler things into the more complex things, is obviously gathering, right? We're talking about herbalism, we're talking about mining, and we're talking about skinning. Those three gathering professions, I guess we can also count fishing into that pile of goodness. Those are the very, very simple things that you can get started on for gold making in The War Within. It's very simple. You get to the new zone, the new city, as you can see part of the background here in the video, and you pick up mining, herbalism, skinning, or fishing, and at that point you just go out on gathering routes. You go out and you spec them into whatever fun stuff that you are interested in. I've made a lot of videos on a lot of gathering related content, and there will be way more when we actually get further into The War Within, so make sure you keep that in mind when you're trying to maybe gather some more in-depth information about them. I have a link to the playlist down in the description below for all my The War Within content, and that'll be the same for everything that I talk about in this video. But yeah, that's a very, very simple number one, pretty easy, and well, you don't really need to think about what you're doing, right? It's very simple, very relaxing for a lot of people to do gathering, so that's number one. Number two is more farming, right? I call it farming because this is your 2x4 situation. And if you guys haven't heard of 2x4s before, it is 2 groups of 4 people to min-max the amount of tags that you can actually get on certain particular mobs in a localized area, right? And these groups are put together usually for skinning, like super big skinning farms, or if you do humanoid farms, and that's for something like tailoring and inscription in The War Within. Very important to keep in mind, if you do not have tailoring in The War Within, you will not get cloth from humanoids. There's a couple other small ways to get it through transmuting and webbed ore deposits and mining, but nothing close to what you're going to be able to farm if you have tailoring learned. And this is very different from previous expansions, so do keep that in mind. And as for inscription, that's because of your Dark Moon cards, right? For a full put together Dark Moon deck. And inscription isn't the only way to get it, but it is the fastest and highest amount of Dark Moon cards that you can get with the proper build. So make sure to keep that in mind when you're thinking about potentially going out to farm Dark Moon cards. But also, you can get it through fishing, though at a lower amount. That is something to consider. But 2x4 farms, they are always great. It's something that you can find in the pre-made group finder, like the looking for group. You'll go into, whether it'll be, I'll just show you here on the screen. Right here into pre-made groups, and then you go into custom, or you go into sometimes questing, but in most cases it's under custom, and then you just 2x4, and then people will have groups ready for the 2x4 farms that are probably, some of them are going to get nerfed, some of them are going to stick around for a while, but if you are on top of this early on with tailoring and inscription learned, and also spec'd into something like that, then that's a great opportunity for you. The next in line is going to be the little more complex version that is moving into crafting professions. Now, however you want to do your crafting professions is totally up to you. But for my purposes and what I am interested in doing, I am going the alt army way, right? I obviously want maybe 1 or 2 characters, maybe 3, to be, min-maxed as much as possible to really level the professions up and get ready for season 1 crafting. But for the alt army purpose, I am setting up, however many I can. I have quite a lot of level 70s at this point, over 120. My plan is to set up a lot of the daily crafts that people could be interested in, like the tailoring, daily cooldown crafted bolts, or transmutes in something like alchemy. But not only that, because of the new profession stat concentration, which I've also made a video talking about, every single piece of gear or an item or consumable, whatever it is, if it's impacted by concentration, then whenever people are progressing their, professions, but also after, when they're close to being maxed out many months into the profession or expansion, then you get to a point where concentration always has use, and it actually opens up for a lot of niche market potentials at different qualities and also at different, crafting costs, because of the fact that concentration guarantees the next possible quality, right? So if you have 5 qualities, it goes from 1 to 2, or 2 to 3, 3 to 4, or 4 to 5. It can't jump from 1 to 5. So there's a lot of smaller windows for potential lower crafting cost, but also very interesting shuffling opportunities for concentration. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your alt army and min-maxing something like that, but also for your, super hardcore main characters when it comes to crafting professions. But the next in line is going to be, this is an outlier for a lot of people, but I thought I should still mention it because it's something that a lot of people do early on, and that is boosting. Boosting is something, it's going to require a lot of admin work, right? Whether you participate on Discord servers, or if you have your own in-game community, or if you have a guild that does a lot of boosting. It could be level boosting if we find some new leveling areas similar to No Cood or Brackenhide and Dragonflight. If we find some new elite zones to level boost in, or something like early in Dragonflight Cobalt Assembly. If we find places like that, you could have a max level 80 tune geared out of your mind, and then you could boost new characters from 70 to 80. Very lucrative thing to do if there are spots like that in the new expansion. The other part is eventually when Season 1 rolls around, you could do Mythic Plus boosting, but just Mythic 0 boosting. That is also something that happens early on. Raid boosting, or even PvP. It's something that takes a little bit to get into, depending on the community that you participate with, or whether you want to create your own. Just something to keep in mind. It's a lot of outside of the game work, unless you have, a leader that just takes you with. And in most cases, I would also say that solo boosting is pretty complicated to do. In most cases, if you actually want to make quite a lot on it, it would be, joining a guild that does boosting, or joining a community that does boosting. So you already maybe have a team put together for Mythic Plus, or a full guild for something like raid boosting. But this also requires that you're pretty good at the game, which is why I think it's an outlier, and it also requires a lot of time to get to that point. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of small, intricate moving parts, so it's something that you can't just immediately get into it. It takes a little bit to figure it out. Same as many other systems in the game, but just something to think about. And I will also say that in this area of gold making, there's unfortunately a lot of RMT that goes on. So if you want to avoid that at all costs, I would also just recommend staying away from it, because RMT is very much against the TOS, which is something that I try to mention to people as much as possible. So don't do that. if you're not interested in interacting with people that might be doing something like that and maybe getting caught in the crossfire for a ban, then avoid that at all costs. That is like the main things that we can do, like main overall things that we can do for gold making in the War Within. Obviously, a lot of these concepts are way more in depth. There's way more to them, and I've made a lot of other videos going into this. A full playlist is connected to the description of this video, where you'll see all kinds of videos on professions, farming locations, explanations, build guides, leveling guides, whatever it is. There's a bunch of stuff in there, so make sure that you guys go and check that out. And if you did enjoy the video, make sure that you actually like the video and subscribe to the channel with all the notifications on. And if you do want to grow your gold making empire, make sure that you also check out Goldcap down in the description below, because that is a great opportunity for bettering your skills and increasing your knowledge on gold making in the game. And it's also a great community. And remember to use Sansaful for, you know, a little discount as well, and it supports me too. But either way, I appreciate you guys for watching, and at this point I will say, as I usually do, I'll see you on the next one.